The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional. You know what one of my favorite things is about our show?
Your co-host?
Yes, that and repeat guests.
Yeah. Today we're going to have somebody who is a repeat guest. We're happy to have him back, returning champion. And this time he's bringing his better half. She will give us the counterpoint to his point, right?
Yeah, and it's great to have her join us, not just because we get to talk to them as a couple and learn a little bit more about their dynamic, but in her own right. She's an author and a journalist and has an amazing life story. And we get like a threefer. We get him, her, and the couple.
It's so refreshing to have couples on, isn't it? Because just a different dynamic than having just someone solo, first of all, and you get that energy, right? And then and obviously it can go in any different direction. It could go off the rails, certainly, too. And if there's any issues they want to talk about, that surely comes up, sometimes unexpectedly.
Yeah. And one thing you and I both appreciated about Arran the first time is his willingness to be vulnerable and honest. And I think we'll get more of that today. So I look forward to seeing that emerge in their couple dynamic, too.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Unrelating with Kel and Michelle.
I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for over 2 decades.
And I'm the show producer and co-host.
Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships,
why we do what we do,
and what causes people to unrelate.
Joining us today are Arran and Melissa. Arran was a previous guest where we talked about the emotional and relationship toll that he experienced after losing his job and the impact that had on his identity. We thought was a really fantastic episode. So Arran, thanks for coming back on the podcast. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And then through meeting Arran, we find out his wife is this amazing author and journalist and has a book that we want to talk about today.
Melissa Petro is the author of Shame on You, How to Be a Woman in the Age of Mortification. It's an in-depth investigation into the modern epidemic of shame in our society. Arran, let's just catch up with you a little bit. I mean, since we last talked, how have things been going in your life?
Okay. I'm still looking for a permanent job. I actually had an interview this morning, so that's exciting. And I had another interview last week, the first couple of interviews for several months. So that's been a nice boost to my confidence. And apart from that, I've been doing a little bit of gig work here and there. So yeah, I'm still out there. You can hire me if you want to hire me, anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a lot of good feedback or feedback from your article? We talked about that before, and then the Insider article.
I did. And from the podcast, yeah, I got a lot of people reaching out. I was really surprised at some of the people who reached out to check in on me and just to, just to say that they connected with what I've been talking about. So that was actually really nice. It was a good experience. And I was vulnerable, which was kind of scary, but that actually paid dividends. So, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned vulnerability because that's the takeaway I had too. And man to man, it can be a little hard sometimes to go that deep and be vulnerable. And it's funny because I think the older I get, the more vulnerable I am becoming or something, because I just feel like I don't know. It's almost like a superpower in some ways, because I do feel like being authentic and being real. I think there's a lot to that, and I think people really respect people who are versus who aren't, so.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think we discussed last time as men, we are taught not to be vulnerable, not to kind of go into our emotions. And so all we're really left with is anger. And so, yeah, I think Melissa will talk about this too, about being your authentic self is really important, especially today in our world of like everyone fighting and clashing.
And the work that has to go into figuring out who your authentic self is, because the other thing Melissa talks about in her book is just like the onslaught of societal and patriarchal and external messages that identify you. And so untangling who other people are telling you should be from who you feel you are is a huge task for any person.
So how'd you two meet?
It's not cringe anymore to say you've met online, right? Like everyone needs
that phase passed.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we met online.
Nice.
Like you find everything these days.
Mhm.
We found each other.
Yeah.
She ordered me out through DoorDash.
Not really.
No. No, it was okay. Okay, Cupid.
Okay, Cupid.
Okay,
Mhm.
computer. Yeah, it was okay, Cupid. We connected. I think by the point that I connected with Melissa, I'd given up sending out, personalized messages, and I think I just sent out 100, just like, "Hey, hello," and Melissa responded, and she made me laugh. Was the first thing. Really, I just found her responses funny, so that was nice.
Usually it's women who enjoy men's humor. That's usually, that's usually our in, Aaron, when we're meeting.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, your wife is hilarious, so I know that you appreciate a funny woman. But that's one of my favorite things about any man. If they can appreciate a funny woman, then I know there's a certain, quality to that person.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, funny in general. Funny just works. I mean, look, I heard someone say, when you're spending an entire life with somebody, that's a long time. And the one thing that's going to last that entire time is humor. I mean, ultimately, the sex may wane, your looks may wane, your conversation may wane, but as long as you've got humor, that's all you need, ultimately.
Yeah, I think we still make each other laugh, which is nice. And we've got 2 kids that love playing pranks and tricking us and joking. So, yeah, I think that's a strong part of our relationship. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I think that we connected pretty right away. If you can feel if someone's real or not, and if they're like you're one of like your kind of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my way, whenever I walk in the room, I'm looking for like my kind of person, and it's really lovely to find that. And I think I found that with Arran pretty right away. He was a little bit kinder than my typical kind of person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There was just something gentlemanly, polite. Is not a word I would use to describe myself or my kind of people generally. It's more like a Larry David kind of person, where they're like telling the truth, but in like a, I remember one of our first dates, Arran explained diplomacy to me. He worked at the UN at that time.
Hilarious.
It was nice. Like it brought a nice balance to my life to have someone who was so other-centered and thoughtful. And it was just really lovely. One of our very first dates, Memorial Date, we called it, because it lasted all of Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, nice.
One of those kinds of dates. It was like our 4th date. And I said, we sat down for our meal. We lived in New York City at the time, and we were on like the sidewalk having dinner. And he asks me, how's your food? And I said, oh, it's wonderful. I need ketchup. He stood up and walked over and got me my ketchup. And this was like how many years ago now? But like
10, 11.
It was one of those things where we really were like, oh, wow, this person is so considerate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
A
you
small
really
gesture.
want me to be happy. And that was it felt really lovely. And it's really the kind of person he is, I think.
Chivalry is not dead, I will say.
And I want to point out that this is just a general couple's observation, especially when I have a couple coming to me. It's a bias sample because they're in distress. But when a couple can be talking about each other and have compliments readily available, or can easily just come up with the other person's strength, that's such an indicator of a healthy relationship. And I'm sure you guys have ups and downs.
No,
just up.
When we walked into our first couples therapy session, we're just so like we have so much respect for each other. I think that's really the foundation. And it's still really, really hard.
That's going to be my point. You're still going to have these really tough times maintaining that respect and that genuine ability to see the good in the other person. That's when you lose that, that's when we start to feel
I think it was today that Melissa sent me. We send each other reels and TikToks of whatever is funny, but occasionally there'll be the relationship TikToks, and Melissa sent me one today, which was the 15 Gottman.
Oh, the
yes,
questions.
Gottman. Mm-hmm.
Gottman?
Yeah, Gottman, and
Yeah.
one of them was, can you? I think it was like, can you name, your first time meeting and what they were wearing? And,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a question.
I think along the lines of like what drew you to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we still do that. We still.
But he was wearing a suit because he had just come from work.
That's
That was
easy.
also very impressive.
And Melissa was wearing a blouse. I think it was grey.
Melissa was wearing clothes.
I know her hair looked amazing.
He was like 2 hours late for the date, but my hair looked really good, so I went anyway. It's actually really interesting because our biggest challenge is communication, and I think that was our first. Like, he had somehow communicated the time was like around the time. But I had thought we were meeting at a particular time.
Well, I cancelled our very first date.
That's right, because he had had sex with someone else that day.
That's.
And I just thought it was rude to go.
Whoa, okay. There's a podcast right there. Okay.
So he chose to cancel the date.
Let's talk about that.
I like the reasoning, though. You thought it'd be rude to.
It's so out of character. That's why it's funny to share.
It just seemed wrong.
Really, but there were a lot of really red flags in the beginning. Like even deal breakers.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a list at that point, like what I wanted from a partner and what I couldn't even. And he had some of that I couldn't even. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I overlooked that. I don't know how specific my partner is going to feel comfortable. I mean, one of my, one of the things was I was sober. I am sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a 12-step program at the time. And one of my no non-negotiables was that I didn't want to be with someone who smoked pot or drank. Arran smoked pot constantly.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, well, you're just going to have to stop. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay. And he was so uncomfortable when he tried to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But he couldn't. So I was like, well, just smoke pot then, and we'll deal with it. I'm not like McGruff, like the crime dog, and smoking, but I am kind of like that. Like it became like a real sense. So we put that away, like that red flag. I was like, okay, we're not gonna he's in all these other ways, like all the reasons why I wouldn't want someone to be a smoker didn't seem to be a problem. Like he's employed, he's responsible. I almost wrote a piece for Marie Claire. In fact, they killed it. But I had written it about my husband's a pothead, but not what you think. He didn't exhibit all of these qualities of someone who smokes pot. So I was like, all right, I'll let that be. But it actually became an issue more recently where I was also, I returned and I was like, okay, that thing I overlooked, I can't overlook anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I do
that
think
does change. Deal breakers change over time. You said 10, 11 years.
This conversation reminds me that was one of the deal breakers in the beginning. And I can't remember what other ones there were. That might have been the one,
I was too sensitive, too vulnerable.
But that wasn't on my list. I had a list of you have to be employed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an apartment. I mean, these were not these were pretty standard things.
Yeah.
But obviously in life, sometimes you're unemployed or sometimes you're, things happen and life changes you and you have to either roll with it or change back, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And along with respect, compassion's another one of those biggies in a relationship. So when those things change and life circumstances happen, it's less about judging or shaming the other person, which we'll get into. More about figuring out maybe there's more pot because there's more stress, or maybe there's less connection because there's more stress. But yeah,
I do think a lot of people get tripped up on their list, and so as soon as they see the one thing or the two things out of their list of 15 things, they'll swipe left or right, whichever way you swipe, to say no. And I think, I don't want to speak for all couples, but I do think part of finding your person is, saying, okay, like they're great, they're fantastic, but they don't mark this box. And like revisiting that and figuring out, is that the deal breaker? Is that the thing that I'm never gonna, like one thing for me was tattoos. I didn't find tattoos particularly attractive. Didn't have a problem with tattoos, but for whatever reason, and Melissa's got tattoos down her arm, down her back. And I love her tattoos. And I actually, sometimes I realize, I don't see her tattoos anymore. Like I just see her. The other day we were in the shower. Melissa was telling me to get out the shower because she wanted her own private shower. And I was thinking at the time, like she's got butterflies running down her back. And I was just thinking, there's her tattoos. And it's one of the first things I really loved about her. She looked tough. Like she looked, yeah, I liked seeing photographs of her because she looked cool, and I didn't think I looked particularly cool. So I just, I looked at my list and I said, that was a dumb thing.
I'm remembering another thing on my list that Arran, and this is interesting because sometimes your list, it's not about you, it's about me. Like this is something, even the pot thing, it's, it's about me. Like I'm sober, I can't deal with it. A lot of people can I went on a couple dates with this guy before Arran that traveled for work and he was going to be away for months at a time. And I was like, that's on my list. We can't keep seeing each other because I can't personally deal with that. Prior to Arran, I had dated someone with a mood disorder. And it went on my list because it was just something I didn't feel like I could deal with again. Someone with that,
extremes.
Yeah, I mean, he was bipolar, and it ended really painfully for me because he, had he couldn't be in a relationship. So, mood disorders were specifically on my list, and I think I found out on the second date that Arran had anxiety, and it was in. Can I?
You can say whatever you want.
He was at the door and he showed a little OCD about locking the door. And I saw it and I was like, all right, well, I guess we can have sex now because I'm not going to keep seeing this guy.
Nice.
I love it.
Nice.
And because I was like, I just can't deal with it. So it wasn't so much a judgment. It was my past pain was triggered.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like a lot of judgment is just your past shit. So it's not saying so much about him as it was saying about me and what I was able to, what I thought I could deal with. And in the end, I could deal with it. I also have mood disorder and, I've got lots of things. So it's no judgment, but it was definitely on the list of things I didn't think I could deal with. And then we just deal with it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're discovering through couples therapy and individual therapy that all the stuff we argue about or fight over is actually just childhood trauma that we're, it's not about the dress that my daughter wants to wear. It's about the fact that my parents limited what I could wear as a child.
And my parents let me wear everything and I was never appropriate for where we were going. So this like these two inner children are in constant conflict, and trying to reparent themselves while we parent our kids has just been really.
Kids will do that to you. I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? You rediscover who you are once you've had kids, and they know how to push the buttons without even trying to.
Not at all.
I didn't discover my ADHD until my son was diagnosed with ADHD, and they're telling me it's hereditary. And I'm beginning to see videos on Facebook of people. It's the craze right now to have ADHD. But every video, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. That's who I am. And like I say, children really reveal your kind of personality. You think you know yourself. Yeah. But when you have kids, you really find out who you are. Like suddenly you have your dad voice that you never had before.
We're forced to become adults ultimately. And it's like you may not like this person you become, maybe reminding you your parents or something. I have a question though. How, kind of going back a little bit, Melissa, how did you, so you had some deal breakers, specifically the pot smoking, because you were trying to avoid that. How did you come to grips with that? What was that compromise like?
I really tried to keep it in the day. And well, how does it feel? Like I had learned by then that pain was an indication that something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time before then, I had sort of just ignored pain or like behaved over it, acted out so I couldn't feel what my body was telling me about a situation. Yeah. And I had begun to learn to listen to how something feels. And being with Arran felt safe. It didn't give me that excited, I'm in danger feeling, which I had learned was not actually a good thing. Right. When someone, I confused fear for excitement. And so I was relearning, okay, what are the feelings telling me? Mm-hmm. And he felt safe. And we had really good sex right away. He didn't feel boring. I had to get really like granular about the emotions. Safe wasn't in this case boring. Mm-hmm. And another thing that happened very early in our relationship is Arran wanted to become exclusive, like right away. Like he didn't want me to continue dating other people. And one of my rules was that you go on dates. Like you're always dating multiple people until you make a decision to be with a person. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't want you, like, I won't feel comfortable if you do that. So we had to be exclusive right away. And
scary.
I mean, he didn't want,
not after the first date.
Not after the first date. I mean, it was like after Memorial Date. That date.
After we were like clearly connected.
We were clearly connected, and he wanted to continue. And in order for him to feel safe, he wanted to know that I wasn't connecting with other people, which feels fair. It was basically just, let's see if this is going to work before, and give it its own space to have that opportunity. And the second it didn't feel, maybe not the second, but when you start to think it's not going to work, then you have to, detach lovingly. And I didn't get that feeling ever in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it felt scary. I have a memory of Arran coming. He was coming for the weekend because he lived all the way in Brooklyn, like really far out on the Q. And I lived on Upper East Side. So we would stay at each other's houses, and we both had dogs. So he would often come to mine because his dog was little enough to bring. And one day he was just bounding up the sidewalk with his dog, and he had like a huge bouquet of flowers and this big smile on his face. And I was just like, like too much. Like you're so excited. Another time I remember he was singing while washing the dishes. And I was like, I guess the kids today would say cringe, right? But we say cringe when we see someone being vulnerable and open-hearted, and like, because we're like so like way too cool for that. Like aloofness is cool, and like irony is cool. It's not cool to like sing in front of like while you're doing the dishes or just to be happy. Being happy is like so not cool.
Yeah, we mistrust a happy person. We're like,
yeah. So I was like, oh, he's so happy. But if I listen to the body, like there's no reason to feel aversion other than fear. But I'm not afraid of him. Mm-hmm. What am I afraid of? I had to really like be honest and know like this is like you can feel happy. You can sing too. Like,
I remember after about a month of dating, I had to move apartment. And one of the things that Melissa really liked when she first met me was my apartment. She even wrote a piece like
for the Washington Post.
Yeah, I'm like, am I dating this guy because of his like really big apartment? I forget what the headline was.
I fell in love with my boyfriend's apartment. Then he moved. Yeah,
and the place that I moved to, it was like painted silver as you go up the stairs. It was like a
landlord special.
Yeah, it was like a complete downgrade in terms of like how cool I was, because I had a really nice apartment.
Was it like the Cobble Hill and Brown?
I went from like a really like, not really, but like a nice neighborhood to an apartment that was just a little bit more sketchy. And I'd packed, and as I was doing the last box up the stairs, my iPad fell and smashed. And so I was just like, I was feeling a bit grumpy. And Melissa said something about like, you did a really shit job of packing. Which
Honestly.
geez, like that's so unnecessary. And so to cheer myself up, I went to Home Depot and I bought like some plant pots and some plants and I put them in my apartment. And then Melissa calls me and she's got this list of complaints about me that like we're moving too fast. And I remember one of them was like, you don't have to text me all the time. Like, you don't have to text me that you miss me. And I was actually laughing. I mean, I was hurt, but I actually found it funny because the only reason I'd been texting as much as I had was because my previous partner was, I mean, they would say very needy, but was like constantly texting me at work. And so there was just wave of relief where like I could say, oh, I don't need to text you. Fantastic. Like, I don't want to be that, like, you know, there's nothing worse than a needy person, you know, someone who's vying for your love, is desperate for your love. It's really off-putting. You know, that's where aloofness comes back in. It's nice to have someone who knows their space and their distance. Yeah. I'd been married before, and one of the things I discovered when I got divorced was how little I'd lost my identity, that we'd become this couple that were just independent of each other, dependent on each other. And it was so nice to, like, it's great when you get divorced because I say that as a joke, but like you really like.
I don't think it's a joke. I think that people who get divorced, who needed to get divorced, are the happiest people on earth.
Exactly. It's exhilarating. I was bouncing off the roof when my divorce papers came through because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm me again.
But you can have that freedom in a relationship if you're detaching with love and communicating honestly. Like I do feel like I remember that conversation. I remember you gave me a little more space to kind of figure that shit out. And I figure it out through writing as a writer. So that's why I write the Washington Post piece. Ended up me figuring it out. Being like, you know, am I with him for his apartment? Like clearly not. So, but he did have, like, by then I was very serious about finding a life partner. And on the outside, he appeared to be that, but on the inside, he also appeared to be that, regardless of those like externals that do change.
And going back to what you said about authenticity, if you're in a relationship where you feel like you're not straying too much from your authentic self, then it can be healthy.
You know, Michelle, what I love about these two is just the honesty. They're both so genuine about their feelings and about their intentions. Now I'm being the therapist here.
I mean, we've had a really, really hard couple of years, though. Like, I need to be like completely authentic. There have been like, we entered couples therapy just like we are right now. We're like, you know, we're kind of in our best place. No, I don't mean like, I mean on the outsides, you know, introducing ourselves to our therapist and like, you know, I love and respect him and vice versa. And we thought we were just going to start to strengthen that. Oh, there's probably some little things underneath, but there were some big things underneath. I feel like we're finally coming out of a dark tunnel, but it got very, very dark for a while.
Yeah, we're in a much better place right now. We've always been really honest with each other in terms of where we're at. And one thing that I say humor, but the other great thing that I loved about Melissa, our first date, we got into a discussion about like art and politics, and we weren't agreeing. We were disagreeing. Like she had opposing views to what I believe to be true, but we were able to have this like, you know, heavy, like almost not angry, but like you're wrong and come away from it being like, I want to see that person again, because we like to chew through the issues, and we've always, you know, we're the type of people that are pretty good at keeping up with what the national discussion is, and we'll often be having that you know, whether it's Charlie Kirk getting shot, you know, the situation right now with the shutdown, we're talking about it, and we're talking about it coming from a place of curiosity. And I learned so much through Melissa when I first met her, because I wasn't thinking about a lot of the things that she was thinking about. So I think that has been probably one of the strongest things about our relationship, is that we do like to talk things through, and we do like to kind of get to the root of stuff.
It's finding that mental stimulation from your partner too, and challenge, intellectual challenge or intellectual attractiveness to that, I think. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Though you guys said communication's your biggest issue, I always wonder, like, what about the communication? Which piece is breaking down there?
I'm overly critical and he's chronically defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I would have.
It's a great sum up.
I might have some views on that. She actually, another funny, not funny necessarily, but another video she sent me today, a relationship video, was it was an external processor meeting an internal processor. And so Melissa loves to talk through, like, whatever our situation is, whatever the problem is, she wants to like throw out 100 solutions and talk through them all. And I'm an internal processor. Like, I also have ADHD, so I'm going to leave it to the last minute before I decide what I think we need to do. And she'll often be frustrated with me because I'm not coming up with solutions. I'm not necessarily responding to her, which leads to your fear of abandonment. So the video was all about, well, I need to give a little and like offer something.
So I'm learning like slower startups, saving it for the family meeting, just paying closer attention to where he's at, because he's not like me. He's not going to come out and be like, hey, I'm feeling a kind of way about something right now, and this is where my head is at. You always know where my head is at because I'm telling you. He's in his head. So when I rush into the room and I'm like, did you see that email from so-and-so? And how are we going to respond? I don't know where his head is at. I have to learn to like read the room, slow down and take the temperature, ask, is now the right time to talk about this? That, it feels like walking on eggshells for the pursuer, but it's really not. It's just being considerate of where that other person is.
And
you have to just be a little bit more. Well, go ahead.
Well, I have to, I'll often be doing the laundry while she's talking. And as soon as I turn my head away from her, that's like a big no-no.
I've learned to say, I'll wait.
Yeah.
But he'll also literally leave the room. He's talking about money during a family meeting.
Right. And he's gone.
He's like, I'm listening. I'm like, I'll wait.
Yeah, so I've learned that I have to turn to her and at least feign attention, I am paying attention. My eyes are
open. But his whole body is all the time.
Yeah, I'm like,
no.
Oh, here we go.
Because I'm like, tell me.
Yeah.
I'm a fighter. He's
I'm like a small gerbil.
or maybe a turtle.
He fawn and I get enraged.
Yeah.
Don't fawn. Just and then I'm a fighter and he's a fawner, and it gets really, really ugly.
Yes.
Are these skills you learn through therapy or just through daily practice?
Therapy.
Yeah, I would say therapy.
Okay.
Therapy's been really good for us. As I said in my last conversation with you guys, therapy has been, we really lucked out on our couples therapist, especially. She's really, really great. Ooh. She really knows how to deal with us.
I had a strong practice as an individual, but relationally, I did not. So that was really a humbling realization that, I had written a book on shame. Yeah, in my relationship, I was shaming him. I was constantly triggered myself and defending myself against shame. We were shifting shame nonstop. It's even some things that the book had touched on in practice. We did not have a strong practice. I did not have a strong practice. And you're faced with a choice. Our couples therapist is hilarious because we'll be going at it. She'll be like, you can figure this out now, or you can do it in your next relationship.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that problem is a you problem. And if you want to figure it out, if it's worth it to figure it out, do that work now. Otherwise, you're going to be doing it again, or you're just going to be unhappy chronically.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be unhappy. And I don't want to leave my partner because I love him. Even my friends and I will bitch about marriage. Oh, husband, blah, 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 blah. But I've always known I love my partner. He's we have fun together. We're good friends. Like there's no reason we got to work through the other shit so that we're not feeling unheard, resentful, and unappreciated. You know, that's the stuff that starts to grow on top of the relationship like mold if you're not communicating effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you are also learning is to shift the habit of you this, you that, and saying, both of you just said what I need to work on, what I need to work on. And that's a big, it's not just semantics. That's a big kind of mind shift to come at it from that. And I know it sounds probably an impossible ask, but to be open-minded and defensive at the same time is okay. Because if you're going to be in couples therapy and hearing something about you that isn't working, you're going to get defensive. So we can't say, don't get defensive. Don't worry. You're going to get defensive.
Even being like, I'm feeling defensive.
Exactly.
What a gift.
We can't try and avoid that. Yeah.
It's, I mean, our therapist is really good and she'll call me on my shit, like in a way that I'm just very impressed because even as a child, people were afraid of me. I felt, in my home of origin and in the world, I grew up really to become very tough. So to have someone with that authority, I'm not afraid to call you on your shit. That's nice. Right. Yeah. And I think master level, I remember recently you came home and you were like, oh, I maybe I asked him where he was or how he was doing. And he started to share about how he was feeling a kind of way. I forget how, probably overwhelmed or unheard or something. And he had shared it. And I was like, yeah, me too, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, yes, but I was telling you about me.
Right.
Do you remember this moment?
Yeah, vaguely.
He said it so gently. He was right. And it was that moment where ooh, I loved that. Yeah. I don't know if I told you in that moment, but I loved it because this is someone with the confidence to correct me. That was nice. That's what I need. I need someone who can hold me accountable and who I can hold accountable without them collapsing in defensiveness. They can get defensive, like you said.
Yeah.
And then recently we had a fight where you got super defensive and then you went away and you came back. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah, taking breaks, I really just time to reflect. And my best relationships, work relationships, have been where I'm like, I completely think you're wrong. And then I go home, have some dinner, and it's still churning over my head. And I'm like, they were right. Why was I so tied to my position when all I needed to do was take a break and just separate? And I mean, that's partly why I used to like smoking pot, was because it always I'm sure a lot of cigarette smokers feel the same way. It gave you a moment to step away, take some time. And I've learned that I can do that without the pot, but it is, I'll go to the same place that I sit outside where I used to have a joint. And I'll just sit there and wait for the cat to come over. And it always surprises me how quick it is that I want to go back in. I got really mad with the kids a couple of weeks ago, in fact, where they were just screaming and shouting, weren't listening to me. I was getting really frustrated. And finally I said, I need to take, said to myself, I need to take a break. And went outside. Sat down and I was fuming. I was so mad. Pulled out my phone, looked at Facebook, and 2 seconds later, I realized the kids were just having a fantastic time. They were like brother and sister, having a great time. They were in a moment of joy. And here was me telling everyone to shut up because of what was going on actually with me. And I walked back in and, I said to Melissa, thanks for taking a break. Let me take a break. And she said, of course, no problem. And Molly, my daughter, who's just the most loving little 5-year-old that you could meet, she just came over and gave me a big hug, I just melted. I just realized, this was me. And it's so hard to realize that it's you in the moment when everyone is pissing you off and everyone is just not considering me. And all you have to do is just give yourself a little bit of space and time to to allow yourself to deal with you so that you can realize it is you. That's the actual problem. And no one else is doing anything wrong. They're just being kids.
Well, so you mentioned the book, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring that up. But talk about the process for writing that book, the genesis of that, and then maybe how that shame has affected your relationship.
So I had started working on a memoir like 2 decades ago. And that project slowly evolved into a work of prescriptive nonfiction. So it braids my story in and my story experiencing shame as a woman with experiences in the sex trades. When I was younger, I was a stripper and a call girl. And then I experienced mass media humiliation when I had transitioned out of that industry to become a public school teacher. And the New York Post just thought that was just inconceivable and put me on its cover. So that was like a relentless humiliation for about a year. I was on multiple covers and international. I was on the Times of India, covered the story. Different time. How did this woman who once was a hooker become a public school teacher? Subsequently I resigned from my job. I was compelled to resign from public school teaching, and I became a full-time writer and a teacher, a facilitator, helping people tell their own stories and without fear of recrimination. I went through in that process a lot of recovery. And I stopped keeping track, but I'm many decades sober, 2 decades. I did 12-step programs for a long time. I did individual therapy, really to reacquaint myself with the person I am, rather than who I've been told I am or told I should be, right? I have a beautiful, beautiful agent who at some point when I had this wonderful memoir, encouraged me to think more broadly and to think of it as how is this story not just about you? How is it a bigger story? What is it about? And after a long time, we landed on the idea of shame and how shame is weaponized against women in particular to keep us from achieving our goals and knowing our worth. So that became a huge part of the book. I interviewed 150 other women. And then we really discovered it doesn't matter if you're being called a whore on the cover of a newspaper or you've burned your kid's waffle and you're a bad mom. Shame is shame. And that feeling is just debilitating. So how do we become acquainted with it so that, familiar with the beast? So that was the book. And I wrote it in 9 months in a camper van away from my family while my husband kept the kids in the house and everything else afloat. When people give their Oscar speeches and they thank their partners, it always felt like lip service, but now I get it. Yeah. Because that project was entirely possible because I had a partner at home just doing the majority of the labor. Yeah. I was able to write that book. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful to have had that support.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that story. That's powerful.
And that having someone like your agents have you look more macro and then look what it became.
Well, I am so grateful for that. And for a period of time, I was just on the floor wanting my memoir to be a memoir.
For a long time.
For a long time. I came to him many times. I
was so glad when she finally accepted because it had been years of Melissa being determined to get her memoir out there. And
it was a Penn finalist.
Yeah,
it was a very good manuscript.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I was compelled to see the larger story. Yes. And it really freed me from still thinking it was about me. Because then when I was able to do these interviews and do the research and walk readers through the steps I took to develop shame resilience and to free myself from that, writing the book was the last step to freedom, because I really did discover it's not at all, I am not at all unique. We are all walking around. And I will say on this conversation, the conversation that started this talk, some of the most illuminating interviews I did were with cisgender men on their relationship to shame and how shame impacted their marriage and their relationships with their partners. I was really grateful to hear from men who are really doing the work, because these days it's not that shame is just weaponized against women. We have a unique relationship to shame, but men And our expectations of men are increasingly impossible. We are also expected to be this feminist, attentive father and also still the provider. So these rigidity of roles are entrapping you the way we feel entrapped, women, and you're feeling ashamed as a result. And really, we have to live differently, is what I heard again and again from the men, especially that I interviewed. They were living differently. They were letting go of these prescribed gender roles that did not serve them or their families.
I mean, I've been unemployed for a couple of years, and that had a dramatic effect on my relationship with my children, which I wasn't even getting to see. I was getting home, 6, 7 o'clock at night as they're about to go to bed and in the middle of a tantrum. And I'm like, why can't I have like a nice fun time with my kids? That was impossible to expect. And it was causing so much stress in our marriage. Now, not having any money has caused a hell of a lot of stress in our marriage. But the flip side, the plus side is I really developed a relationship with my children.
The societal pressure of he's supposed to be the provider. I got the book, I got a really good deal from Penguin. So he could be unemployed for a while and just do that unpaid, invisible, typically female labor in the home. So long as he and I were both, willing to be brave enough to unlearn these prescripted roles.
Yep.
And it's not easy. But it's so necessary if you really do not just want to survive, but thrive.
And to be willing to sacrifice something or give something up. So many of our systems are hard for people to give up because they're benefiting from them. Mm-hmm. And so I found even the good guys, like the truly good guys, the Kellys and the Arrans of the world, it's still hard for them to break those roles when they've so benefited from the female.
There's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
I came to him when a second editor expressed interest in the book. I came to him and he almost reflexively said, "You're going to leave me." Do you remember? Mm-hmm. I'm sure he did not mean to say it out loud, but he did.
I was expressing that fear.
He expressed his deepest fear. Stephanie Rodriguez O'Connell is writing a book called The Ambition Penalty that'll be out soon. And her research on women and ambition is so critical because, and how it played out in that moment and in our relationship is so typical that, when a woman is successful, a man feels emasculated, and a man is emasculated by society, right. Culturally. Yeah. There's so there's all of these effects in a relationship that are insidious and unconscious. Mm-hmm. And again, it takes a lot of unlearning, and facing that fear it takes a lot of courage. I knew, and in that moment, initially I felt like it was a poor reflection on our marriage that he would say that. Oh, why can't he be happy for me? Well, we've learned a lot of things about the way things should be that are creating an enormous amount of fear for him in that moment. And that's why he can't just be happy for you. It's not him. And actually discovering Stephanie's research and de-individualizing it, I felt a lot of shame that my partner would say that in that moment. And really, it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal at all. And that fear is completely understandable. And I think meeting each other's fears with curiosity and compassion rather than defensiveness or shame, that's the challenge.
Yeah, less rather than and more after, because we're going to have our reactions. Right. So step 2 is then we have our reflection and figure out our response to that. So when we're in a relationship where we're living in our reaction space most of the time, that's not going to be conducive. We got to get out of there and go into the space where you are thinking about staying open-minded and seeing nuance, which reaction space doesn't like nuance. It likes black and white.
Your comments about shame, Melissa, I'm sort of reflecting on feelings of shame that I may have experienced or do experience, and you don't really realize it at the time, but then it kind of, upon reflection, is like, oh, okay, it does tend to creep into your daily life. thinking about things that I said or I did or I didn't do, or, and this stuff kind of haunts me in many ways. And, I'm not going to go into details, but like, how did that healing take place for you?
Individually, not
Sure.
relationally.
or both. Yeah.
I think like when I spoke to a handful of individuals who were super shame resilient, I would say.
Yeah.
And I would describe myself as pretty shame resilient considering all I've lived through. And the steps of shame resilience and developing shame resilience, this was repeated by the people I spoke to and in my own experience. It's really about knowing your own story, kind of knowing your triggers. These are the things that really set me off, that make me feel that feeling, knowing what the feeling is in the body, being able to recognize it, being able to share. So if I am having the experience you're just describing, ooh, that moment didn't feel good. Oh, I felt ashamed. Today I know to share it immediately with someone else. So, I have a bad drop off with my kid. The other day, my daughter was having difficulty separating. This was a couple months ago. And I just put out my hand. Like I needed to go. I just had, I had to go. And I put out my hand a little too hard and I accidentally pushed her and she fell over and fell on the floor. And all the other kids were like, I've been there.
Mom.
It looked like my poor daughter with and I pushed her on the ground. I couldn't have felt more ashamed, right? What do? I have to, my first feeling, and this is shame. No one can ever know about this. I hope no one saw. And I'm a horrible person. I have to hide this. And then what I know, having developed a practice of shame resilience, is I have to tell someone this. So I walk into the cafe and the barista says, how are you doing? And I said, I'm a terrible person. I just did this. I'm feeling like a terrible person. And it starts to shift from I am to I feel. And I can start. So I again, external processor, I'm just going to tell that story again and again until I can tell it with some levity and laughter. I'm wearing it really lightly. And I'm always met with someone else who can share a story. Not always, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, you are a terrible person. And I'm like, okay, you're not a person.
Right.
But you find a person who's like, well, let me tell you what I did to my kid the other day. And then now I'm listening empathetically. So that's one of the steps, right? We have a little cultural awareness around it. And I'm aware that moms are bad moms. And I know what that means. And developing that cultural awareness and de-individualizing it and knowing that it's not personal. That's all what we do to kind of liberate ourselves from that feeling. And then just, we share our stories, we listen and don't judge. That's the trend these days. Love it.
And practicing, I guess, forgiveness and showing yourself a little bit of grace, maybe. I think I'm trying to do that more as I get older as well, because I realize I'm going to make mistakes, okay? Shit's going to go bad, go sideways. So,
and the best way to feel that is when you do share and you see that mirroring, that person treating you the way you should treat yourself, they're responding compassionately.
Yep.
They are giving you grace. So it's a sort of model because I don't have any practice at that. It's all negative self-talk in there until I hear someone else on the outside say the thing I need to hear. Then it becomes the voice in my head and that voice gets louder and I'm able to do what you're doing. Another practice that's really helpful is Tara Brach's RAIN technique. We recognize the feeling, we become aware, we investigate within the body. What is the feeling? And then we nurture.
I like that. I heard someone once say, if we talked to other people the way we talk to ourselves, we'd be thrown in jail,
Right.
It's true.
Right.
One of the great moments I love in Melissa's book, if you don't mind me sharing, is at the end. I mean, you should tell, I'll just say which bit it is, when you interviewed the New York Post writer.
Oh, wow.
I interviewed one of the writers who had written a horrible headline against me. She'd actually really done a hit piece. It was almost a year later. She took one of my courses. I was teaching writing then to adults. She just got into one of the classes, took the class the whole day, and then wrote a hit piece at the end. The working girl is back in the classroom or something like that. I don't know how it was, but it was pretty nasty. It was the only one I still had feelings about. And if you still have feelings, so something about, I was not quite all right with myself still, if I'm not quite all right with her. So I wanted to, and to her credit, I reached out and said, I'm gonna book down. Do you want to be interviewed? And she said, yeah, let's do it. And we had a really meaningful conversation. Oh, spooky cat.
Yep.
For a long time, we talked, and it really helped a lot. And sometimes that's what that repair, sometimes, not always. We can't always go to the person who didn't see us and feel seen. But hopefully the relationships in our lives, like when I can always, like, I'm talking about repair now. I think that's one thing in our marriage, and I think we're getting even better at it, is going to each other and feeling seen after some sort of disconnection when we just did not feel seen. We can return to each other. We always return to each other.
I think what's so great about, and Michelle, I'm sure you'll agree with me, but what's so great about talking to these two is I find them very inspiring as a couple, because you may not feel like you are, but
just picturing Robin, our couples therapist, watching this and being like,
you have no idea.
At one point she was like, the other therapist has complained that you're too loud when you're shouting at each other.
No, but that's the part I find inspiring. Not so much that you're creating this picture of like, we do everything right and, we're getting through it. It's that you're saying like, we're making lots of mistakes along the way, and you're open to learning what you're doing.
You're putting it out there, and I don't know, some of it's good, some of it's not, but ultimately, at least you're putting it out there and you're communicating. And ultimately isn't communication one of the biggest problems with relationships? I mean, ultimately it's like, that's where everything falls apart.
But you guys are also being proactive, because what do we need to do to counter these polished false narratives of social media and continued, systemic pressures, is to present ourselves authentically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do that, you are actively countering the
100%.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, because it's obviously, this life is a journey, and you were obviously all taking this, and it's going to be rocky, and it's going to have its ups and downs, but it's not linear. That's for sure. Damn sure.
Definitely.
Well, I also think of professionally, am I mission aligned? Am I having a bad current time, but I still believe in the cause and I remember why I'm doing this?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by like, I always liked him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, even when we had real struggles, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve it? I mean, money's been a big issue, and division of labor, how we show up for like the mental labor of solving problems we've touched on was a real, I felt resentful, and I was constantly begging for more.
But you remember why you're putting the work in.
Underneath it all, like, there have been times where I'm like, this is irreconcilable. Like, I Googled that at one point. I'm like, this problem is what they call an irreconcilable difference. Mm-hmm. We can't solve it. It's irreconcilable. And that's why people get divorced. Even when that felt true, it's been reconciled. But even when that felt true, I still respected my partner, loved him deeply, and I loved our family. That was a real hard one.
We've learned, I feel like we both came from childhoods where our parents fought or there was tension. And I can remember at one point I was feeling, I'd been arguing with my dad, and I was feeling kind of despairing over some stuff he'd said. And Melissa reminded me, like, it doesn't matter how bad things get. The point is we repair, and that we model repairing for our children. So we don't get to the point where we, like, whatever, we blow up and we fight. That's fine. To, like, we both taught our children that, like, feeling angry or like feeling a certain emotion is okay.
We crash out in front of our kids.
Yeah.
It's okay.
As long as we repair as much as possible. Like, and that, if I've acted badly in front of Melissa on the car ride to school, in front of the kids, we'll try and
we'll talk about it in front of them.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in front of them, maybe on the car journey home, so that they can see the it's okay. Like everyone has a bad day. Everyone has
a hard time.
Crashes out. It's how you repair afterwards. And that was really good for me to hear at the time, because I hadn't realized that was something we do. It was something we did, but I didn't realize that was something that we did. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, that's true. Like, we're going to be okay, because we're modeling that for our children. I mean, our children, our eldest son is special needs. He's a lot of work. He has PDA, he's demand avoidant. He can be quite...
And he's exceptionally gifted.
Yes. He's a great kid. We love him so much, but he really tests us. And when he's teamed up with his sister, like their dynamic duo, but we've allowed them to be themselves as much as possible. And obviously there's days when I blow up at them because they're being too much themselves. But again, like, I'm allowed to have that moment of frustration and maybe speak unkindly.
I think we are also learning how to step away before we crash out.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. You're not letting yourself completely off the hook. But you are being compassionate.
Now that they're getting older and more self-sufficient. I mean, in those early years, it was like there was no stepping away. During COVID, there was no one.
Yeah.
There was no one. We have no family anyway that can come in and like give us a date night. Like, we were on constant survival, and that's just like our nervous systems were on alert nonstop. We don't have to live that way today. You can step away. Like, I can step away when I need to, so that we don't have those big blow ups as often.
Yeah. And the kids are growing up having repair as part of the cycle. Whereas in our generation, they skip the repair part. So
you don't say sorry. That's a sign of weakness.
We just move on.
Which is so damaging. I mean, it really damages everyone around you if you can't learn to take responsibility.
Well, listen, we thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, we literally did put this off many times because we were not
getting along. Even today, I was worried.
Today, was like, should we prepare? And I'm like, we're okay.
Well, just think of all the times you guys have defaulted to we're going to be authentic, and it worked out. I'd say most of the time. So
you never know where we're going to be at, but we've actually been in a really good place for a while, and it's thanks a lot to therapy, couples therapy,
definitely,
which gets a bad rep, in feminist circles. Like, I have a lot of feelings about. I'm obviously a feminist, and also there's a lot of like hyper criticism and heterocynicism these days when it comes to relationships that I think is really it makes it hard to be in one as a feminist.
And also a culture that's less and less about compromise and
and
listening.
Just critical. Yeah. Like when I say that I'm overly critical, like part of that is a feminist consciousness that is just absolutely intolerant. You know, I had tolerated so much in my lifetime that I became intolerant, and I took it out on the person I loved who was closest to me. So learning how to disentangle those beliefs from the human being, the individual that I share my life with, that's another podcast.
That we're both struggling underneath the same oppressive system.
By this system.
That took a while for us both to kind of realize, I think.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I really do want to write about that.
Because it's so easy to blame the other person for the oppressive system.
And to feel blamed.
Like, it's their fault.
He'd feel really defensive. Every time I'd send him a reel about mental load or whatever, he'd be like, are you talking about me or are you talking about men?
Right.
Or both, I guess.
Why not both?
Not all men.
That's my partner sometimes. And sometimes it's true. Right.
Or even the feminist judgment that if you do allow certain concessions in your relationship, that you're not a true feminist.
Right.
Exactly.
Melissa, is there like a handle, Instagram, or anything to get the book?
My book is Shame on You: How to Be a Woman in the Age of Mortification. You can find it everywhere books are sold.
And I actually read a review that said it was like a page turner.
I had a scandalous life, and that is part of the story. So
Yeah.
read it and find out.
Well, listen, we're rooting for both of you two, okay? So
Thank you. It's been really great coming on again.
well, we weren't wrong. It was great having a couple on and talking about obviously how they met, some of the issues they had to work out, and then where they are now. So it was really cool getting to see Arran and Melissa's story and then to find out about her background. Wow, I was just so inspired and impressed by her. Talk about resilience and talk about someone who went through this trying time or times and then has come out the other side a better person because of it, and an author, no less.
And she was bringing up this phrase, shame resilience, which shame comes up so much in the shows that we do because it's something that almost everybody can relate to and get triggered. Hearing her talk about shame resilience in her own personal life and how she expanded that to do all this research and talk to other men and women who reflected on their own shame. There's a camaraderie to that. Anytime, someone is helping us feel connected to each other, it helps with feeling lonely.
You don't really realize how often you feel shame until you think about it and how much of a part it can play in your daily life. And it's, as we were talking, I started thinking about that and how some people call it shame. Some people call it maybe insecurity or
shame, rejection, embarrassment,
thank you.
Self-esteem. Those all get wrapped up. When you get triggered.
And all kind of dominoes too. Like one thing can lead to the next thing, which can lead to the next thing. So something happens,
Well, that's something Arran and Melissa highlighted so beautifully in their stories is just how much baggage we bring with us to our relationship.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They shared so many like vulnerable examples of that, not just in, their romantic relationship, but when it comes to parenting and just your identity as a person out in the world.
It's just a big reminder that we're all just trying to figure this shit out, Nothing is ever easy. You just got to wake up every morning and you just got to put your socks on and you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think most of us now have facade fatigue. And I just made that up, so I don't know if it's an actual term, but this idea of just everyone presenting this perfect life on social media, or it just saying that things are going well when they're not. And even in relationships, saying, oh yeah, we have a perfect relationship. And their intentionality in not being that way, at least today, and the way they talk about, we're normal people who have normal struggles. It's just refreshing in a way that it probably shouldn't be refreshing, but to me it is.
No, I think I really appreciate when you do get the real story. And that's why I think people love behind the scenes, or they love seeing like documentaries about people, or you get a real unpolished look at what's going on with other people. There's no facade, right? Facade less, right? So I like that term facade fatigue. You should actually trademark that.
Trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times with my clients in therapy, sometimes you can sense that there's more to there usually is more to the story. So a lot of times I flat out ask, I'm like, okay, now tell me what you haven't told me yet.
And what do they say?
Then they reveal the actual thing, but it takes time for some people longer than others to get to the point of saying the real thing. I'm like, what is it you're not telling me?
They need to be prodded a little bit, or they just need to be, or their hand held maybe a little bit more than others.
And also, and maybe redirected or refocused, because a lot of times, in therapy, people are talking about things that aren't the core issue. And so it's whittling it down to, okay, what is the actual thing?
Does the concept of shame come up in your practice?
So much. And a lot of that is, the messages we got growing up, how we were raised, who our parents were, what the early relationships we had, and what was allowed and not allowed emotionally.
Yeah.
It can be a real mind effer. I don't know why I'm restricting myself right now. I usually just say the swear word, but
I'll say it. Mind fuck.
Thank you. The other thing, though, that I loved was when they talked about the importance of repair. After you disconnect, after something happens in your relationship, you can't skip the repair part. You can't just sweep it under the rug and say, let's pretend nothing happened. because that can be so damaging, because then there's no resolution. And then you're just building upon challenges without any kind of resolution, then it's not going to work out. And then, of course, what we were talking about near the end is modeling that for your children. How important it is for your children to get a model of a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Because then they're the ones with the baggage that in the next generation coming into their relationships with these either like toxic messages or even just kind of problematic messages about what you are and aren't allowed to be emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to break the cycle by showing your kiddos in real time what it looks like to disagree and repair, what it looks like to get frustrated and regulate, what it looks like to be disappointed and cope.
Yeah. No, I think looking back, growing up, I think, I certainly modeled some of my behavior based on what I was perceiving or what I was seeing, right?
Yeah.
And then do you A, continue that, or B, do you find your own path or maybe your own approach that is perhaps better for you? Which
is hard to do because you're a little bit starting from scratch if you didn't have that modeled. It's like, how am I supposed to know what a healthy relationship is if I've never seen one?
Or imagine, men who grow up fatherless for whatever reason. I mean, where is that positive male role model in their life? And hopefully they have one.
So then the world is teaching versus the household is teaching. And it's what are the images they're going to see of what masculinity is, of what being a real man looks like. And you have a lot less control over that. I think one of the best things a parent can do is narrate their own kind of emotional process. I do it at home. If I screw something up, I say it out loud just so my kids can hear what it's like for me to go through the process of like, oh man, I'm really frustrated with myself right now. I'm going to take a deep breath. You know what? This isn't actually that big a deal. I can fix this. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit better about it. And that may feel incredibly awkward for a parent to do for the first time, or it might seem cringe or whatever. But I promise you, your kids hear and see whether or not you can work through your own issues. They hear and see whether or not you're able to regulate or cope. What I'm trying to do is give them language. I say, I'm sorry. I say, I don't know. These are all words that are important for a kid to be able to be comfortable with, or else they're going to be an adult that isn't comfortable with saying, I'm sorry, or saying, I don't know.
Admitting you don't know something is so powerful, especially to a child, because you think your parents got all the answers, but they don't.
No.
So admitting that to them is really empowering, illuminating, right? That you can figure things out. It is okay not to have all the answers. And
a lot of times shame is the reason we don't go back and repair in that way. If I get mad at my kid or I raise my voice, shame often keeps me from going back to them and saying, you know what, I raised my voice and that wasn't okay, and I'm sorry. But again, that is a message of respect. And when your kids are older, that's how they know what respect looks like in a relationship. They're not going to magically know what that looks like if they have never seen it.
Going back to Arran and Melissa, I think that they're modeling that behavior for their kids. And certainly their kids are going to be better because of it. So it's great to see that. Chalked up as a win.
Yeah. And their ability to just enjoy each other and maintain the humor that you're always talking about, how important that is. And I agree. And see each other's strengths and give each other the benefit of the doubt and, know that nothing is irreconcilable, as Melissa said, even when it feels like it might be, as long as you guys are both on the same team and willing to stay open-minded on how to fix it. But I do really appreciate them taking the time to be themselves and share their story with us. I feel like we need to all go out and hang out. They're fun. And that's coming from me, who doesn't want to hang out with anyone ever. So that's high praise.
Well, next time we're in New York catching our Broadway show, the four of us, you and your spouse, me and mine, will reach out to Arran and Melissa and see if they can meet us for dinner.
Love it. If you're struggling with family, friends, or just life in general,
in a bad relationship and wondering what to do,
or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success,
then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating.
To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube.